Oh, da ist jemand. Hello.
In 2006, a 36-year-old man named Vincent Filya was living in the woods as a fugitive near Lugoff, South Carolina, after being accused of abusing his stepdaughter. In September of that same year, he saw a 14-year-old girl named Elizabeth Schoaf getting off the school bus and decided to abduct her. Posing as a police officer, Filya arrested Schoaf on a supposed marijuana charge and led her to his hideout in the middle of the woods. For 10 days, Elizabeth was chained up and abused by Filya in the underground bunker beneath the hideout in what can only be described as a nightmare come true. Still, the girl was extremely resilient throughout the whole ordeal and came up with a plan to escape from the horrifying situation she found herself in.
Warum hören wir jetzt diese Geschichte?
If she wanted to escape, Elizabeth knew that she had to get Vincent to like her. For several days, she pretended to be in love with Filya, and eventually the kidnapper lowered his guard, even unchaining her and allowing her to play games on his phone. One night, while Vincent was sleeping, the teenager got a hold of his phone and sent a text to her mom saying she was in a hole across the Charm Hill, that there was a bomb, and to call the police. As it was
Okay. Ich denke mal, sie gehen gleich in dieses Loch rein, oder was?
later revealed, Filya had planned to draw in as many people as possible to the bunker to detonate a bomb and take the lives of the responding officers. However, he never managed to carry out his plan, for just a few minutes later the area was surrounded by helicopters and he was forced to surrender. To make a long story short, Elizabeth was able to move on with her life, and the monster named Vincent Filya spent the rest of his life in prison, where he died in 2021 in his cell. In December 2023, a YouTuber named Big Banks visited the abandoned hideout where the terrifying crime took place. Immediately upon entering the house, the uploader finds something extremely disturbing.
Okay. Also ein Typ hat ein Mädchen kidnappt und 10 Tage im Wald gefangen gehalten, bis sie es geschafft hat, mit seinem Handy Spiele zu spielen und dann ihre Eltern zu benachrichtigen? Okay.
I think this was the little girl's backpack.
Hä? Und die haben keine Beweise und nichts gesichert, oder was? Das sieht doch viel zu neu aus. Das ist doch ein Beweis, das bleibt doch nicht einfach da liegen.
That was left here. What a sad sight to see. Knowing that happened.
A little girl's backpack can be seen on the floor outside the kitchen. Although it's impossible to confirm if it belonged to Elizabeth Schoaf, it is possible that it was planted there after the crime by somebody else. As he explores the living room, the uploader finds more creepy stuff, including a DVD of the horror movie The Strangers, a Halloween decoration next to one of the couches, a shank, a broken baseball bat, and a ripstick.
Okay.
Obviously, the fact that these items were left behind is much more disturbing when you consider the history of the house. It's heartbreaking to imagine that some of the toys lying around the floor possibly belonged to the girl that Vincent Filya had stolen. Throughout the rest of the house, several objects and pieces of furniture, including the bed in the main room, look like they were placed there much later than 2006. It's possible that the house was occupied by squatters, but because it was empty at the time,
ich dachte, die waren in diesem Loch. Was hat das Haus denn jetzt damit zu tun?
the footage was shot, it's impossible to know what belonged to Filya, his common-law family, his victim, and the squatters. Thankfully, after being reunited with her family in 2006, Elizabeth went on to live a fruitful life, and the man who committed the heinous crime against her paid the price for it.
Ja gut, die wird ewig daran zurückdenken, ne? Und Therapie brauchen, um das zu verarbeiten. Also, ja.
Holton Avenue is a notorious...
Hä, das war's? War jetzt nicht so spannend. Okay. Und der Rucksack sah irgendwie zu neu aus. Ich habe irgendwie das Gefühl, es...
notoriously creepy abandoned street in Cleveland, Ohio. In 1913, the first Hungarian Baptist church was built on that street, eventually falling into disuse and being left abandoned like the rest of the buildings on that street. In April 2016, the body of a woman named Jessica Coleman was found there after she went missing, but unfortunately her attacker was never found. In July 2023, Chris Hill went to the location to record footage of the abandoned church, as well as the rest of the buildings on Holton Avenue. From disturbing graffiti to broken glass and peeling walls, the church checks every box you would expect from a creepy, abandoned building. As he ventures into the basement, Chris finds signs that someone else had been inside the church, including an action figure of Melvin the giraffe from Madagascar that he mentions he doesn't remember seeing the last time he visited the location.
Vor allem, die sieht auch super neu aus. Die sieht nicht aus, als wenn die da schon länger wäre.
Knowing that he's often not alone during his explorations, Chris set up several cameras throughout the church, and about 10 minutes into the exploration, one of the cameras on the main floor captures something pretty creepy.
That's weird.
Oh. Okay.
What's upstairs?
Obviously, doors don't just randomly shut themselves, and as it wasn't particularly windy that night, it's clear that someone was in the church with Chris. But after looking around for a bit, he can't find anyone in the church and decides to head back outside to explore the rest of the buildings on Holton Avenue. If the church was in a messed up state, some of the houses are even worse, with most of them looking like they could collapse at any second. Around half an hour into the visit, he decides to explore one of the most dilapidated houses on the block, and as he's in the basement, the exploration takes a scary turn.
Oha. In the basement. Hm. Okay, also er war in der Kirche. Ist das wieder dieser Chris Hill? Er war in der Kirche, da hat jemand die Tür geknallt, jetzt ist er in einem Haus nebenan irgendwie.
It actually looks like it's just underneath the house. It's not really a basement. Still creepy.
Was? Ich hab was verpasst.
It's not really a basement.
Seht ihr irgendwas? Ich sehe nix.
Still creepy.
Ich habe nichts gesehen. Aber ich höre was. Er bewegt sich nicht, ich höre Geräusche. Da ist jemand. Hallo.
Sorry. I didn't know nobody lived there.
Uiuiui, ja, da haben wir auf jeden Fall jemanden gesehen. Das war mal ganz deutlich.
It smelled like I knew somebody was in there.
As he's exploring the basement, a sound can be heard coming from the ground floor, and when he goes back up to find out what it is, a person pulls back the curtain. Immediately apologizing, Chris runs back out to the street, and that's when he realizes that despite the horrible state of the supposedly abandoned house, there was actually someone living in there with electricity. Clearly most, if not all of the abandoned buildings on the block were housing people now who didn't want him there, something he never encountered on his first
Krass, da brennt auch einfach Licht.
visit.
Okay.
And with this newfound discovery, Chris called it a night.
Ja, aber es ist dieser Chris Hill, ne? Der ist crazy drauf, ey.
In February 2020, urban explorer Rhythm Ryder explored an abandoned house at an undisclosed location with his exploration partner Zay Clark. According to Rhythm, the house used to belong to an old woman who had passed away. In complete contrast to most abandoned houses, most of the woman's possessions had been left untouched, indicating that the house had not yet fallen prey to looters and squatters who often take things that aren't theirs. All throughout the house, the two explorers find everything from beautiful tableware and silverware to ornately woven tapestries and a fully equipped bar.
Krass, solche Löffel sind gar nicht mal so unwertvoll, ne?
Based on the calendars they found in the house, the property hadn't been occupied since August 2018. Just a few minutes into the visit, Rhythm and Zay find something incredibly sad and disturbing.
I've always been worried about something like this happening, and then it did. When we walked in here,
Brüllt denn der so rum? Der ist nachts in einem leeren Haus. Schreit denn der so?
we took a few steps in the door, and we saw this on the ground.
Oh. Das sieht. Aber die ist auch schon länger weg, ne? Also, das ist ja, wenn man stirbt, dann dann hinterlässt man halt, wenn man nicht gefunden wird gleich, solche Flecken auf dem Boden. Weiß gar nicht, wie das bei Fachleuten heißt, aber das ist halt so die Ausdünstung, die letzten. Mm.
Now, for those who can't figure figure out what that is a body stain. And you can see right there, there's a walker. So,
Was ist jetzt ein Walker? Was für ein Walker?
unfortunately, it seems that the woman who had lived here had taken a bad fall, landed on the floor, and that's where she expired, unfortunately. It's extremely, extremely sad to us. It took us a good 20 minutes to decide what we're going to do here, and despite it feeling weird, we figured we still need to tell the story because this is a good reminder to everybody that you need to check on your loved ones. It seemed this woman had passed and was laying here for God knows how long before she was found. So
ja, sonst hinterlässt nicht so einen Abdruck, wenn du relativ schnell gefunden wirst. Da musst du ein paar Tage lang liegen.
check in on your loved ones, guys.
Right in the middle of the hallway, a human body stain can be seen on the floor next to a walker, indicating that the old woman probably had a bad fall and couldn't get up. Sadly, she passed away and her body decomposed before
Ach, der Stock da oben heißt Walker, oder was? Also eine Gehhilfe. Okay.
anyone could save her, which is a terrifying way to die. There appear to be signs
Ja gut, man weiß nicht, ob die gefallen ist und direkt tot war, ne? Also, oder ob sie im Fallen schon, ob sie gestorben ist und hingefallen ist. So. Das weiß man natürlich nicht, aber trotzdem ist es nicht schön, wenn man so lange nicht gefunden wird.
that the woman's family members tried to sort through her things after she passed away, but overall, her various belongings are in
Viele Bücher.
perfectly good shape, including her bathroom supplies, which were still there at the time of the recording. It's hard to watch the footage without having conflicting feelings. Even though the house is beautiful and you can easily tell that the woman who lived there with her husband was a talented, outgoing person, it's incredibly sad to see how she met her end. Overall, the footage should serve as a reminder to check in on your loved ones every time you get the chance, because nobody deserves to pass away like that. Since 2020, Written with Ryder hasn't gone back to that location.
Okay. War ein bisschen ein kleiner Downer, ne?